Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Bala and Bala Perspectives on Education. Emotions. Emotions are something that have been probably, I wouldn't say tormenting, but they have been on our minds probably from the time we have understood them. And today, we are going to deal with the impact of emotions. The two Balas are here with me today for this discussion. Mr. G. Balasubramaniam, the former Director Academics of CBSE, and Mr. Giri Balasubramaniam, better known as Pig Brain, the Quiz Master. Welcome to both of you for this discussion. Today's topic of discussion is role and impact of emotions in learning. I do believe that emotions play a large role in everything that we do in our life, not only our personal life. So today we want to talk about role and impact of emotions in learning. So my first question, sir, to you, is learning emotional?
Uh, Absolutely, yes. Because when you talk of Bloom's taxonomy, one of the critical factors of Bloom's taxonomy is the affective domain, as much as thrust we give on cognitive and the psychomotor domain. Apart from the taxonomical approach, when you look at the normal life, right from the birth of a child, you find that the emotions impact the baby. There are a number of researchers, neurocognitive researchers, which have clearly said that even in the prenatal stage, the emotions of the mother do impact the fetus, and therefore even these emotions create certain neural networks. And there is a claim that the children do not come with a blank slate of mind when they enter this yeah. So, emotions are basically linked to the hormones in the system, and therefore all learning is basically impacted by the kind of the flow of hormones and so many other factors that we have. So, learning is emotional, when a teacher, a parent, or somebody communicates with a child, the words uttered by them. Words are source of power, words are source of energy, words can create people, words can kill people. And similarly, when you write something, when you read a letter which doesn't carry any verbal medium, but then you look at the letter, you are moved into tears. You see a movie, you start crying, you start laughing. So we are a bundle of emotions. All learning in the system is only impacted by emotions. So you cannot, separate learning from emotions. And the sometimes people claim that it's a non-emotive behavior because people don't have attention, people don't have focus, they hear the words and let it go, and therefore we cannot call it learning. They are engaged in a system in which they are not learning, right? So it is also claimed by the psychologists, cognitive psychologists, that that when you provide emotional content to learning, learning moves from the what do you call the external memory, and it goes to a long-term memory. We remember things, for long period of time when the things have got emotional content. But whatever be the emotion, whether it's a positive emotion or a negative emotion, they get embedded into your brain. So we don't have to have a second view whether learning is emotional or not. It is, and it will continue to be.
All right. Is learning emotional?
Absolutely, like he said, yes. I think the understanding that learning is emotional happened to the maximum during the pandemic. We speak so much about learning loss, learning gap, etc. What actually happened during the pandemic between a student and a teacher relationship is there was an emotion gap which could not be bridged by technology.
True.
Sitting in the classroom, I missed my teacher. Sitting in the classroom, I missed my neighboring child. Sitting in my class, I missed the neighboring child's tiffin box. Those were the emotions of a classroom that I missed. I had to eat the same tiffin box that is provided by my mother compulsorily or my father because I didn't have the choice of eating someone else's tiffin box. I missed the emotions of mischief in class. I missed the emotions of the noise in class. All of that prepares me to receive information better from a teacher. My energy levels are different when my emotions are different. A teacher leaves a class, the next teacher comes in, some mischief happens in the class is suddenly happy, everyone has been giggling over that mischief. Suddenly you are receptive to the next teacher because your state of mind is a positive state of mind. Take a teacher. Generation relevant teachers are emotions. A teacher walks into a class, intentionally makes a critiquing remark about the next version of the iPhone and says, I didn't like the design of the next version of the iPhone. What do you guys think? Whether she's even read about it or not, suddenly the child in that classroom turns around and thinks, ma'am is cool. Ma'am is my generation. She comments on the next iPhone. Emotion. Emotion to me is what governs the willingness to participate and learn. Therefore, every learning aspect is emotional for me.
So let's continue with that. How do you think emotions help in the quality of learning?
Oh, if you feel emotional about a subject, you fall in love with that subject. It's as simple as that. The way my teacher taught me Merchant of Venice when I was in school made me fall in love with an ironic character like Shylock and therefore with literature. I fell in love with English literature. It inspired me to read on my own. Today we talk of jargons and adjectives like self-learning. I have gone and read a lot of poems. I went and picked books in the library, which was based on the motivation I received in class. What was the motivation? It was an emotion that I felt and enjoyed, saying, oh, I feel nice doing this. Similar was with math. My math teacher taught math with current affairs. Phenomenal man. He made math look like magic. You fell in love with the subject. I come from a school where in a single batch we produced over 20 doctors. That biology teacher must have done something correct. Maybe those children got emotionally connected to it. Thank God I didn't. Many people would have died if I had become a doctor. But that is besides the point. I could have probably recited a couple of poems to revive people. That's all I could have done. But I think emotion is a very, very powerful tool. Unfortunately, not utilized properly by us. That's my view.
So, what do you think? How do emotion impact the quality of learning?
Well, there is no arbitration on this issue that the better the emotional content in learning, the quality of learning is there. And more so with positive emotions, the building up of the individual is very high. Neurocognitive psychologists today talk about ECS, emotionally competent stimuli. So when a teacher provides an emotionally competent stimuli, the child, has a, yeah, an experience. When you talk about experiential learning, is not merely handling something; it's a kind of living those experiences. So emotions facilitate you to live those experiences. Imagine of a teacher entering to a class 2 or 3 when she talks about a story, tells a story. For example, the lion and the hare, right? When she says there was a dark forest, and in that forest, there was a lion, and the lion was roaring, and all that, the child's imagination is totally transported to a different world, and the child lives that experiences. Sometimes there are, even researchers which have indicated that because of the stories told in the classroom, the children, when they go back home and during the sleep, they have got bedwetting, whatnot, where they relive those kinds of experiences. So the emotions have a very significant impact. So not only in the primary class, but when you come to the higher classes, a number of life skills can be talked through, three stories and emotions and others. Empathy, and then reaching out to people, right? Developing social consciousness. All these things can be beautifully done through an emotional approach to the content. It doesn't matter, as he pointed out, whether it's mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology. I think all subjects yield, a buffet of opportunities, a bucket of opportunities to provide an emotional content to learning. I think in all that process, the holistic learning takes place. In the absence of emotions, you go through disciplines. With emotions, you engage with a holistic learning process.
Okay, so I'm going to continue with you. I do believe there's a whole lot of empowerment of students that is required in the process of learning. So, what can teachers do to, or what kind of practices and pedagogies can teachers implement to improve or to actually empower these students?
Uh, the first and foremost thing the teachers need to have is a positive approach to to the learning process in the classroom. Every child, every learner is a gifted learner. The time factor may be low, but he is gifted in his own way. It is not that he doesn't get 100 in mathematics. He is gifted and others are not. But everybody has got a skill, and we need to identify that particular gift that God has given to that learner, and that they should provide. And therefore, a teacher needs to recognize, respond, appreciate, approve, and acknowledge the child with what he is, what she is all about. Even if you want to have a butterfly, it has got to go through a process of, a couple of days experiencing into the shell and then breaking open. So every child to me is a butterfly, it has got to open. And the role of a teacher is not to take a, pin and poke and thereby clip the wings of the butterfly and allow them to blossom like beautiful flowers blossom that. And therefore, the lesson plan when they draw, the lesson plan should have got a good emotional content. Emotional content facilitate, the self pride of the learner, self image of the learner, and it helps the learner to be self reliant over a period of time. And therefore, we are in a world of positive psychology today. Therefore, we need to help the children to to be what they are, right? One of the major problems that what we find in our classrooms is imposing something called learned helplessness. What is the learned helplessness? You won't learn mathematics. You are not looking good. You are not tall. So we try to put so many things of what is not possible rather than what is possible. So with a paradigm shift in the mindset that every child is a gifted child and every child can learn, I think we can do wonders in a classroom.
So, at every stage from kindergarten to class 12, I would like to stop at class 12, the emotional state of mind of a child is very different. So, what can a teacher do to provide for it, or what can a teacher do to understand it and ensure that the learning is to the optimum?
That's a very important and interesting question because, in the growth process, we undergo a series of emotional, changes, right? Uh, Let me give a very simple anecdote to you. When a baby is in, say, 4 years or 5 years old, and the mother is going out, the baby says, "Mommy, please wait, hold my hand, I will come." But when the child is in fifth class, when the mummy goes out, the child says, "Mummy, please wait, I will hold your hands and come." When the child is in eighth class or ninth class, "Mummy, please go, I am coming." And when the child comes in 10th class or so, "Mummy, I am going, you come." Now, you see how the child is manifesting. In other words, that's a growth process of the learner. So, when you talk about the primary classes, the nursery classes, they suffer from a sense of insecurity. The teacher has to provide reassurance. And when it comes to class 3 to 5, you find that the children are very curious. The teachers need to support that kind of curiosity. When the children come to class 6 to 8, they have an identity crisis. They are moving from adolescence to, childhood to adolescence. So you need to acknowledge their identity over there. When they come to class 9th and 10th, they will need to be self-dependent and self-reliant. So you must be able to acknowledge their identity and let them grow with their identity. So understanding the growth profiles of a child is a very important dynamics. So whatever subject you teach, it doesn't matter. You adopt these psychological approaches to that, so that the learner becomes confident and a communicative and contributive learner.
All right. So let me now move back to you. The UNESCO document talks about learning to get together and learning to be, which calls for handling one's emotional content very differently. What kind of activities do you think can be held in schools to enrich that kind of learning among the students?
See, it's a very good thing that you brought about, because there are two aspects that the world is moving into. One is the goals that are set by the United Nations as part of SDG, where quality of education is SDG 4. And then we've got NEP, which in a way borrows elements, or has elements which are similar to what SDG advocates. Both those are advocating preparing our children for a future world. And that's really what is being touched about here. What is that future world that teachers need to focus on? What's required in the future world? We require children to be fostered in a manner in schools where they look at solving problems and not highlighting problems. It's a mind shift change that is required. Students need to be incentivized in classrooms for being problem solvers. So, I would encourage schools to have a complaint box and say, please give a complaint. With every complaint, give 3 solutions you will give. You are creating a mindset for solutions. Find the problem, but don't only highlight the problem. Give me 3 solutions. In fact, in corporates, when you say highlight the problem and give me 3 solutions, complaints decrease. People stop complaining when you say provide the solution. Second, teaching children to collaborate with one another. The world is moving clearly to more collaboration and interdependence. We need to teach our children to not live in silos. That again is something that came in a stark manner for people to realize during the pandemic. That children forgot how to behave with children. They missed that the most. So I think these are aspects which are extremely important to come into classrooms. The third, which I think personally is very, very critical and at a school level, is to be conscious to the environment you are part of. We take that for granted. And that has to start at a very early age in school. It is what you are going to leave behind as a planet for the next generation. And we are responsible for it, and it's a serious individual responsibility while it's a collective goal. So these things are what comes into the elements that schools can actually start looking at.
All right. So, 21st century skills, we've all heard of 21st century skills a lot now. So, these particular skills require all of us to be prepared for a world which is more collaborative. So, all of us need to learn to collaborate over a period of time. Now, will this seed the evolution of more capable youngsters?
Yes, I think I would now not spell 21st century skills, because we have gone at least quarter of the 21st century. We must now be planning for the 22nd century skills. What's happening in the last couple of decades, thanks to technology, the way we handle knowledge, the way we process knowledge, the way we administer knowledge is changing. We are moving fast towards social construction of knowledge. And no wonder you have got your social media, Wikipedia, may think of any other PDFs that come through. all of us want to contribute to something, to social concept of knowledge. Knowledge dissipated, not only dissipated, but dissipated so fast, right? And also in that process, the life period of knowledge, the shelf life of knowledge is fast decreasing. So new construction of knowledge is also happening very fast. And this social constructivism of is helping the newer construction of knowledge, at an unimaginable speed. We are talking today what's about the half-life period of knowledge rather than anything else. In that context, the role of the youngsters, the role of the school students is something which is very, very significant, because they are the people who are the frontliners, who are the frontline soldiers of dealing with knowledge, and therefore they come with new ideas, new approaches, and therefore the speed of irrelevance of knowledge is increasing. So to me, the youngsters need to be encouraged to move ahead. Possibly by 2050, we will see a world which we couldn't have even imagined today. That's the way that things are moving around, and we should therefore be prepared that that the future of the world will be led by its youngsters than its seniors.
What about you?
I think the way schools are reconstructing themselves or re-architecting themselves, it is in alignment with this desire to produce more people who are capable to contribute in a collaborative world. It's not that people are not today, but it is perhaps more out of individual evolution, individual way. It's not been an institutionalized contribution. There is actually going to be no alternative. I think this is like making a virtue out of a necessity. You are going to be required to be in that framework in the future, because everybody and everybody's aspirations today are going to be global. You take a simple startup. He does not care today where his customer is going to come from. He does not question you saying you are from country A or country B, so I will not give it to you. He questions himself saying, oh, you want this in country A, now let me think how to reach it to country A. So what happens is, the world order will be one where the world is one. So collaborative is a compulsion. It is not a choice or a virtue. Preparing them for that world, yes, I definitely think the sort of requirements laid out by whatever NEP in India, there are many other countries which are also realigning their educational policies simultaneously.
Sure.
It's not only India. So it's not an isolated thing that's happening in our country. A lot of countries are realigning their educational policies around this time. So there is a convergence which is happening, which will lead to greater collaboration. That's my way of looking at it. The critical aspect, though, like I keep saying, is the catalyst for all of this is that teacher in the classroom. She or he is key to ensuring that that collaboration is quantum and not arithmetic. That's the key difference.
I think we keep coming back to the point that teachers are centric to everything that we do in a school or in a class. Well, dear teachers, this was all about role and impact of emotions on learning. We trust that you have been able to learn a lot and have been able to understand how emotions will impact learning of all the students. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and join us again in the next episode of Bala and Bala Perspectives on Education. We will see you there.